So now that I've spent a bit of time cleaning the whole frame, I know that I've cleaned the parts that have paint on it. So I said that I was using a sort of dirty-ish rag. I've cleaned the important parts. Now I can move across to the wheel. The reason that I wanted to have the camera on me while I'm doing the wheel is while I'm cleaning the wheel, I'm actually having a look at sort of its condition as well. So I'm holding the rag here with my right hand, and I'm cleaning the right side of the wheel, and I'm cleaning the actual rim, the metal part, but I'm also cleaning the tire down here as well. I'm sort of cleaning the whole thing, you know, as sort of one movement. So I've got a couple of fingers on the rim and a couple of fingers on the tire as well. You can see it's changing color on the tire as it's getting wet. And I'm just doing one full revolution. And if you didn't notice already, I started at the valve, which means that I know that I've done a full rotation when I'm back at the valve. And I'll do the same thing on the opposite side. While I'm at the wheel, I'm going to use this opportunity to have a look at the spokes as well. With the part of the rag that I was using to clean the wheel, or clean the tire and the wheel, I suppose, that part of the rag should be a little bit wet now. Maybe not soaking wet, like you don't have to wring it out, but you'll feel that it's a little bit damp. So I'm going to use that damp part to clean the spokes. The way that I look at the wheel is we've got spokes that are on drive side and spokes that are on non-drive side. I'm not going to try and clean them all at once. I'm just going to focus on just drive side, and then we'll move across to non-drive side. So I've got one that goes up here, and then I've got one that comes down here. I'm just using this opportunity while I'm sort of cleaning up and down each spoke to have a look if any of them have any big dents, or maybe we're missing a spoke or something like that. So not only are we making it look a little bit nicer, we're also making sure that it's safe for the customer too. Now I'll do that on both sides of the wheel, and then I'll move down to the front wheel as well. And because I like the bike to look as good as we can, I'm also just going to use that damp part of the rag to wipe down the inside of the hub. To be honest, this bit's a little bit overkill, but it shows that I really took care with this bike. It's like when you're cleaning your car, you can clean the car and it looks okay, but as soon as you wipe the wheels down, then you're like, now it's clean. I think the same thing with a bike as well. The frame looks good, but if the wheels are clean, the whole thing looks $1,000,000. So while I've still got the damp rag in my hand, I'm just gonna go around and clean some, I'm gonna call them miscellaneous areas. Like it might be, there's a rear light on here. I can just sort of clean around that just to make it look a little bit nicer. This is just being a little bit over the top, to be honest, but it will make it look nice. Maybe the rear derailleur, maybe there's some mud or some dirt on there that would look nicer if it wasn't on there. This isn't a necessity, but again, it also gives me a chance just to have a good look. Like I can see that there are still 2 limit screws there. It's not missing one, which would be a really weird thing to happen, but something worth looking at anyway while it's in at the bike shop. So there's kind of no rules with what I'm doing here. I'm literally just cleaning it. I'm not trying to wipe any specific areas. I'm just going around in every spot that my eyes touch. I'm making sure that I can try and get a rag to touch that same spot as well. As a bike shop person, something that I've learned over my years of servicing bikes and cleaning bikes is a really important part, especially for the bike shop to clean, is underneath the down tube here. My reason for that is back at bike shops I've worked at, we've been like walking the bike out to show the customer the service that we've done. We've got it, you know, up in a wheelie, we're rolling it along on the back wheel, and that means that that's the main part that they're looking at on their bike. So you can have the bike glistening clean and, you know, use special polish and make it all look $1,000,000. But if the down tube is covered in mud, it makes the whole thing look dirty. So a little top tip I've learned over the years is to just clean the down tube of the bike as well, underneath the down tube of the bike. So now that I've finished cleaning most of the bike, I just want to note a couple of things that I noticed throughout that clean. Some of the things that I noticed is while I was cleaning the frame, I noticed that there's a big old scratch down the back side of the seat tube here. My guess is that there's been a bike lock that's been sitting here and it's just been rubbing along there or something like that. Or maybe they've had it resting up against a pole, or it's been sitting in the car or the bike rack and something's been rubbing on there, because it's kind of rubbed a sticker off and rubbed the paint off. But it's an aluminium frame and I'm not too worried about it. But that was just something that I noticed while I was cleaning it. Also, I noticed that there's a scratch on the rear derailleur, which is on the drive side because it's the derailleur, it's part of the drive unit, drivetrain. And that means that there's a small chance that it might be bent out of shape. So I'm gonna have a look to make sure that the hanger is straight a bit later. And there was one more thing that I noticed. Brake, yes. While I was spinning the front wheel to clean it, I could hear that the front brake is rubbing, which means that we're gonna need to align the front brake. but I'm not gonna do that straight away because one of the things that the customer noted here is that they want us to bleed the brakes and that the brakes weren't feeling very powerful. So just worth noting that the front brake maybe isn't perfectly lined up, but we're gonna bleed it anyway. So the next step in this service is that I wanna clean the drivetrain. This is an important step in my opinion because it's what makes the drivetrain work properly. There's different aspects to the drivetrain. We've got consumable parts, which would be the chain, the cassette, and the chain rings, or in this case, singular chain ring. So we're gonna have a look at each of those parts there. We're gonna see how they're worn, and then we're gonna play with the rear derailleur because there is no front derailleur, and we're gonna make sure that it shifts between every gear smoothly. So let's dive straight into it. Step number one, we're gonna measure the chain so that I can get a bit of an idea of how the rest of the drivetrain should look in regards to the actual consumable parts. So I will grab my trusty little chain checker tool here. I won't talk too much about how to use it. This is just more what we're doing. But my chain checker tool here measures as we would expect, 100% worn. So it definitely needs a new chain. And because it's 100% worn, because it recommends replacing it 0.75, since it's 100, which is past that, there's a small chance that it might need a cassette as well, but we won't know that until we go for a test ride later. So I'm gonna take this chain off. I'm gonna give the rest of the drivetrain a bit of a clean with some drivetrain cleaner, and then, yeah, we'll see how it all performs once it's clean. All right. So before I actually go ahead and clean that, we're gonna need to add some bead tension to that later. I'm gonna say, if you wanna know more about what we're actually about to do now, I'm gonna replace the chain and I'm gonna clean the drivetrain, but instead of going super in depth into this video and making it super long, we've actually done a few videos further back on our YouTube channel. So if you want an idea of how to clean your chain or clean your drivetrain or replace your chain or anything like that, we've got some more in-depth videos. I'm honestly just gonna do it here. I'm not gonna explain exactly how we're doing it, but yeah, you get the idea. And straight into the metal recycling, because that's the name of my business, Recycle Bicycle Sales. That was so tight, actually. There we go. Everything's easier with the right tool. I don't know who taught me that, but somebody would have taught me that. There's no way I would have learned that by myself, but now you can learn it from me. All right, now that I've taken that rear wheel out and we've got access to this inside, I've gone back to step one of cleaning, which is going to be an important step that we're going to come back to about 100 times throughout this service. You'll find that that's the most important part of, I suppose, maintaining your bike is just keeping it clean. So now that I can see inside here, I can see that there's a little bit more dirt that I just like to get rid of. So now that I've got the wheel out, I'm going to remove this cassette and start cleaning it. But I also know that this cassette, I can kind of tell that the bottom 4 gears, as in like the hardest 4, the smallest 4, are definitely looking a little bit shark toothy. So chances are when we put this new chain on, it's going to exaggerate that and slip even more. But for the purpose of this video, I'm going to clean the cassette anyway, but chances are we're going to put it in the metal recycling later anyway. So this could be a big old waste of time, but it makes for a good video. So cassette is removed, and now I'm just gonna put it onto a really dirty rag. I've purposely picked like pretty much the dirtiest rag that I've got because this one's gonna be going to the bin in a minute. And I'm just gonna leave it to soak for a minute while I have another look at the bike, clean up that rear derailleur, make it all look a little bit better. Just gonna spray on the derailleur. If you've got a electric rear derailleur, Di2 or Axis or anything like that, maybe just be thoughtful about where you're spraying it, but we still do want to clean it at the end of the day. And I'm also using quite a dirty rag here because I expect that this will be really dirty. And maybe I should have put gloves on before because my fingers will be black in just a moment, but we're too far into the video for me to add them in now. We'll get a little bit on the front chainring as well. And I'm trying not to get too much into the motor if I can avoid it. All right, that's clean enough. Now we'll come back to the cassette. And I'm literally just gonna use the same dirty rag that I was using to clean the drivetrain. And I'm just gonna go through the cassette, pretty much one cog at a time. And I try and space it out in a way that I'll remember so that when it comes time to put it back onto the wheel, I know which order each cog, or sometimes each spacer between each cog will go as well. Now I've got a question for people in the comment section below. I call this the dork disc. You can call it whatever you want, cassette, cover, spoke, saver. I call it dork disc. So down below, should we keep the dork disc or should we put the dork disc where, in my opinion, it belongs, which is in the bin? I don't know what to do. I probably should let the customer know. Yeah. All right. I've got approval from the owner to remove it and put it safely in the bin. And pretty simply, I'm just going to put it back together now. All right, drivetrain is clean. Now we'll put the wheel back in and put a new chain on, a bit of grease on the thread, so that in a year's time when they try and undo it, they don't have to deal with what I had to deal with just then of trying to take it off, where it was incredibly tight. Grease should always be on spots where metal is touching metal, especially on the threads of a bolt, so that way when you go to undo it, it's not going to be seized like it was just before. Now that the drivetrain is clean, we're ready to put the new chain on here. The long and short is I've got it in small and small, and we're gonna just, thread the new chain through the derailleur and then over the chainring. But I won't go into this too in-depth in this video because we've done one further back in our YouTube channel about how to replace your chain. So if you want a more in-depth video, you can check that one out as well. But for now, we're just gonna grab an e-bike specific chain because this is an electric bike, because the e-bikes put out more power than Hoggy coming into the finish line. And now we are ready to cut the chain, but I think I just noticed that this chain is already at the right sort of length. I don't need to cut any links out, which kind of makes sense because it's a dual suspension mountain bike, so there's quite a long chain stay here. So that's pretty cool. That means that I don't even need to use my chain brake tool, which is a tool that you will see many times in the how to replace a chain video or how to use a quick link video. I think we did that one as well. Oh, I can't reach the bin. We'll come back and pick that up later. This one's just a quick link, so it's the easy one to use. In that how to replace your chain video, you might have also seen us use a chain pin, which is the slightly more advanced option, but this one doesn't have that. So I've got it here, and I'm just going to bring it into the top half of the chain, which is there. And then, because these pedals look like they're going to kill my hand, for the next step, I'm just going to grab a rag, and where is it? It's still at the top. Not quite. Got it. Now it's in, and it's in on both sides. Cool. I would have cut my hand open if I didn't do that with a towel. Look at these pins here, typical mountain bike pedals. Cool, all right, new chain is on. Now let's see how it shifts between each gear. Cool, and a little tip that I've learned here over the years, I've had this happen to me a couple of times, so learn from my mistake and mistakes that I've seen. We're in the second easiest gear here. While I'm pedaling along, just before I go into the easiest gear, I like to slow the wheel down or stop it so that when I'm pedaling into that easiest gear, the wheel's not going too fast. I've seen it enough times to know that it's important that when you shift into that easiest gear and it's in the work stem, sometimes the chain could go over the cassette and into the spokes, and it's catastrophic, rip the derailleur off, brake spokes, drama. So the slower that the wheel's spinning, if it's only going at this speed, you could catch it with your hand. But if it's like, you know, you're going really fast and you're going down here, grabbing that is a little bit more like daunting. Like you could do it, but you've really got to prepare to do it, I suppose. So when you're going into that second easiest gear, it's fine. And then just slow it down a little bit or stop it. And then into that easiest gear. I know that this one's okay though, but for the 1 in 100 times that it could go wrong, you want to be ready to be able to catch it with your hand. You might remember that earlier in this video, as we were doing the visual check, I said that there were a few things I noticed. One of them was this scratch on the rear derailleur. Now that we're down here looking at the rear derailleur, seeing how it's performing, one of the things I said is that I might want to check the hanger. The hanger in this scenario is this little piece of metal just down here. You've got the expensive frame and the expensive derailleur, and then the hanger that connects the two. The hanger is designed to bend. It's designed to fail and snap and twist and that kind of thing. So the fact that there's a scratch on here makes me think that it could possibly be bent out of shape. First of all, visual check. I'm just gonna stand behind the bike and I'm looking at the chain lines. So where the chain goes over the cassette, over the top jockey wheel, and then the bottom jockey wheel, the guide jockey wheel and the tension jockey wheel. I just want to see that it's nice and straight. It's not sort of skew-iff over to one side or the other. And to my eye, one eye, not both eyes, I can see that it looks like it's pretty damn straight to me. but just to be sure, I'm gonna put a tool on it anyway. So now we've got the hanger tool on there, and I just wanna check that it's all nice and straight. For what it's worth as well, we did a video like last week or 2 weeks ago about how to straighten your hanger. So the step that I'm doing right now, I'm kind of just like flying through it and it's already perfect, which is what we thought with that quick visual check. But if you reckon that the hanger on your bike might not quite be perfectly straight, we've done a video just recently about how to check that the hanger is straight, or how to straighten a bent hanger, or I can't remember what we called it, but along those lines. Now we're tuning all the middle gears with the cable tension. We're not too worried about the high limit and the low limit screw. This is just the actual cable tension, which depending on your bike, sometimes it might be a barrel adjuster here, sometimes it might have one where it goes into the frame, but for this bike, it's got it built into the shifter. Pretty common on most mountain bikes anyway. So to be honest, the way that I'm tuning it here is, I'm gonna say 20% by what I see and 80% by what I hear. So it's difficult to do this part if you've got loud music blasting in the workshop. So sometimes, especially for a couple of jobs actually, when I'm doing services on a bike, when I'm tuning the gears and when I'm aligning the brakes, I'll usually pause the music in the shop just so I can actually hear what's happening. Another little top tip. I don't know how many top tips we've said in this video, but this is what 13 years of being a bike mechanic gets you. So on the rear derailleur, I won't go into it too in depth because we've done more videos. We've got a B tension, we've got a high limit, a low limit, and then a barrel adjuster. I played with the barrel adjuster a little bit here, and I loosened the B tension screw a tiny little bit as well, but I haven't touched either of these limit screws. The limit screws, you've got a low limit and you've got a high limit. Low limit is the lowest gear, the easiest gear going up a steep hill, and high limit is the highest gear going down a fast hill, going really, really fast, I suppose. Hopefully, you shouldn't need to touch them throughout the service, but as a bike mechanic, I'll still have a look. When I'm in this easiest gear here, I can try and squeeze it to see if it wants to go any further, see if I can get it to brake. I'd rather it brake here in the work stand than out on the trail while they're riding it. And it's not going any further, so I don't want to touch this low limit. And then down the other side as well, I just want to make sure it doesn't look like it wants to fall into the frame, which this one doesn't as well. So there's no need to touch either of those screws yet. Can you hear that in the video? I don't know if you can hear that in the video, but that leads us perfectly into the next part of this service, which is having a look at the brakes. The reason I wanted to start this little segment with that is when I spin the wheel, it sounds like there's a train coming up behind us. Imagine riding down the trail. Yeah, imagine riding down the trail and you hear a freight train coming up behind you. You're like, oh my God, I've got to go faster. And then the sound gets louder and you're like, what do I do? That's why you've got to make sure your brakes are straight. I can see pretty clearly with my eye that this brake is across to drive side too much, so we'll realign it, but that's just interesting. I've never heard that noise from a bike before, so let's fix it. So in a normal service, at this point, I would go through and align the brake, and just as I'm pulling the brake lever, I'll make sure that the brake pads on both sides are actually moving. Like it's not biased towards drive side or towards non-drive side. I want both pistons to be coming out. But because this customer mentioned that their brakes were feeling, I think the wording was not very powerful and spongy, which I agree with, it's pulling pretty close to the handlebar, we're gonna give it a full brake bleed anyway. So I'm gonna skip this step and we're gonna come back to it a little bit later once we finish the brake bleed. All right, so to do the brake bleed, wheel out and brake pads out. That's step number 1 or 2, depending on how you count. All right, and now next part, brake pads out. Yeah, we're gonna put gloves on because now we're gonna start using a mineral oil because we're working with Shimano brakes here. Same deal if it was SRAM though with the dot fluid, but we're gonna use some gloves because I don't wanna be eating mineral oil with my sandwich later today. So I'm not gonna go super in depth in this video about how to do a brake bleed because I'm now ready to start the brake bleed. I'm not gonna go too in depth of how to actually do a brake bleed in this video because we've done some further back in our YouTube channel, both for Shimano and for SRAM. This is the Shimano brake. So I'm just gonna fly through this, do it as I normally would, watch along. Now I've removed everything, I'm just gonna clean it all with some isopropyl alcohol to get any brake fluid off of there that we've got. I've actually taken off my gloves already because I had brake fluid all over them and I don't want that getting onto the brake caliper, or more importantly, the brake pads. And all I'm doing here, which has been the theme of this service, is giving it a good clean. And this is just the split pin So I'll get that in a good spot so I can bend it up and then nothing's gonna slip out of place. Good to go. All right, now everything is ready to go. We'll put the wheel back in, if I can grab that. There we go, put the wheel back in, and we'll remember that just before we did the brake bleed, we noticed that the rear brake was rubbing and it was a little bit off center. So now that we've done the brake bleed, we'll see if it's made any difference, although I expect that we'll still have to realign it anyway. Now that the brake rotor is in there, I'm just gonna pump the lever a few times so we can get the pistons to move to wherever they wanna be. And I can literally see with my eye that it's still sitting off center. So we'll go through and realign it. Top tip that I've learned when I'm realigning the brake is I actually rest my forehead on the tire. Hopefully it's at least a little bit clean so I don't have a big tire mark on my forehead. But then that way I can see where the caliper is in relation to the rotor. And I can see that it's not moving anyway. Perfect, and now I can see daylight on both sides. I've actually got white shoes on so I can see my white shoe through the brake rotor. So I can tell that there's plenty of room on both sides, just in case. And now we're going to move across to the front one as well. We'll have a quick visual inspection. Don't know if you can hear that on the camera. I can already hear that it's rubbing, but it's going ting, ting, ting. So it's doing it sort of each revolution. It's not rubbing, it's just like touching on one side, which tells me that this brake rotor is probably bent out of shape a little bit. So it's not necessarily that the caliper's out of line or the rotor's out of line. It's more likely that there's a little kink in it, like it's been bumped at some point. So I'll find out where the kink is and I'll see if I can straighten it out with a tool. And because I am a bike shop, I have a special tool for this, which looks like that. But if you're doing it at home, you might use that. And this is the bit where we pause the music that's playing in the shop or in our earphones or something like that, so that we can listen. And I'm trying to find... Right. Silence. All right, cool. All right, so now that we're happy that the frame is clean, the drivetrain is clean, and the brakes work the way that they should, and we had a good look at what they mentioned, which was that the brakes were feeling a little bit spongy. Now that we've bled both the brakes, aligned them, now we can move across to one of the final steps, which is giving the bike a bit of an M check, a safety check. We call it an M because we're gonna follow the letter M. I'm gonna kind of draw it backwards, but we're gonna start at the front, down at the bottom. We're gonna go up, down, sort of in the shape of an M. We're kind of gonna follow that along here. So without further ado, we'll start down at the front, grab a tool or a collection of tools. It's most likely gonna be a set of Allen keys, but have your tools ready. We're just gonna check that all these different bolts are nice and tight. So the front skewer, I know that that's nice and tight. The brake bolts, which hopefully we tightened in the last step while we were adjusting the brake anyway. We can keep working our way further up, and now we get to the stem bolts. So this is a 4mm Allen key. Make sure that they're all tight. Brake levers. This isn't about being ruthlessly tight. It's just about making sure that everything is sort of nipped up. Even this one has lock-on grips. There's nothing scarier than having a throttle. That one's not moving because it's already tight. Nothing worse than the grip spinning while you're riding. So we like to make sure that they're nice and tight as well on a mountain bike like this, which they already are. And because this person has a bell on their bike, they're all important. Make sure the bell is nice and tight, which it is. Haha, Lewis, you're so funny. And now I want to check the steerer bolts as well. So this one, I'm probably gonna redo this step that I'm doing right now on the floor at the end, but just while we're working our way through the M check, we'll do it anyway. Loosen the top bolt, the side bolts, the pinch bolts is what the side bolts are. Cool, so they're both loose, which means that now the handlebars can spin freely. So I'm just going to tighten up that top bolt. It doesn't have to be ruthlessly tight, just tight enough. And then we'll tighten up these pinch bolts again. Now we'll keep following that letter M, which will bring us down here. So I can't hear that the bottle cage is rattling, so there's probably no need to try and tighten that. But we might come down to the cranks here and the pedals. So we'll check that whole area, make sure that everything's nice and tight. I'm gonna start with the cranks. This one has the little Shimano tool, so I'll make sure nice and tight. Pedals, they are nice and tight. Sorry, I've got my back to you. I'm just working my way through this service. They're all nice and tight, cool. Chainring bolts, while we're there, since they're easy to reach. And because this one's an electric bike, I'm just going to check the motor bolts as well. Make sure that they are nice and tight, which they are. Good. I thought I broke that. I didn't. Nice and tight, nice and tight, nice and tight. To be honest, I would have been pretty surprised if any of those bolts were loose, but while I've got the tool in my hand, we'll double check. May as well check the pivots while we're here. So I'm still just working my way through that M check and going through all of the different bolts. So we've gone from the front, we went up, back down, and now I'm starting to come back up again so that we can go down again in the shape of a letter M. Seat clamp is nice and tight. Then we'll work our way back down this way, which will bring us to the whole back end. So skewer, we might check that that's nice and tight because that's probably the first thing that everything comes off of. The derailleur is nice and tight, which we removed when we had a look at the hanger anyway. So when I put that on, hopefully I checked that it was nice and tight. Make sure it's not spinning the nut on the backside. Good. And that brake caliper with my 5mm Allen key. And hopefully this one's good because we realigned it earlier in this video. All right, I'm quite happy with that. Perfect. Now that we've finished our bolt check and most of the service, we can take the bike out of the work stand, out into the car park. We'll take it for a test ride and we'll see if we can make it sort of have any issues while we're out there, because I'd rather it happen while it's here at our bike shop rather than when the customer's got the bike back at home. Let's go for a test ride. So first of all, I'm just pedaling around to make sure that it shifts every gear. I'm not really thinking about the electrics or the power just yet. I just want to make sure that it works properly, which it does. It's a good start. And brakes, whoa. Yep, they work for sure, the front one at least. And rear one too, definitely works. Yeah, happy with the brakes. And another thing that the customer mentioned is that the gears were slipping. Let's see if the new chain fixed that. I'm going to do a bit of a power test and I'm going to do it with the electrics on as well. So let's see how it goes. Put it into one of the gears that it might play around in. That feels pretty good. Try another gear. I'm pedaling along with the brakes on to simulate like going up a hill. And that feels pretty good. Let's try another gear. Feels pretty good. This is a good start. Very good start. On electric bikes like this, it's really common, there it is, it's really common that in the harder cogs, so the smaller cogs down the bottom, like these ones down here, a lot of electric bike riders will be a bit biased towards those gears and they'll leave it in the harder gears and just let the motor do all the work. That's exactly what's happened here. I just felt it skipping in the second hardest gear. I'll see if it skips in the hardest gear as well. But unfortunately, I might have to call this owner and say, we need to get a new rear cassette as well. So I think that's gonna be the case anyway, but I'm just gonna try the hardest gear as well. Oh, that might be all right. I don't know if you can hear it jumping there, but in that second hardest gear, it was definitely skipping, but in the hardest gear, it wasn't. So interesting. I'll give them a call and I'll see what they want to do. Cool. All right. I'm just going to call the owner of this bike and tell them how the service went. And yes, we'll see how we go. Cool. All right. Hey Jude, it's Lewis from Recycle Bicycle Sales here. How you going? All right. So we've just been through the service on your bike. Everything came up really well. The only thing that I wanted to note is that when we put the new chain on, it meant that the gears were skipping on the cassette, but it was only in the second hardest gear. So I've got two options for you here. Option one, new cassette, expensive. Option two is just don't use that second hardest gear. What would you like to do?
serves me right for being a lazy e-biker. I'm just going to avoid that here.
All right, good call. All right, in that case, your bike is ready to go. I'll see you in store whenever you're here. Nice.
Thank you, Lewis, for the service on my bike.
No worries, enjoy.
I'm going to
Enjoy.
home.
I'll grab the FOS machine. Jokes aside, that's actually Jude, my cameraman's bike. He is there and he sounds like he's gonna ride home now. So thanks for coming in and getting your bike serviced, Jude. I'll send you the invoice. All right, cool. Let's close this video out. I'm going to finish this video by saying that was actually heaps of fun. I had that workshop job that needed to be done and I knew that Jude wanted to come and pick it up today. So I booked it in for being a job that we could do today. And he brought his camera and it ended up being an excellent video, I think. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. If you enjoyed this video and you reckon that you'd like to see some more videos kind of like that, let us know in the comment section below and we'll make sure that we can film some more of them because that honestly was enjoyable and it meant that I could kill 2 birds with 1 stone. We could take a video, but I could also get an important workshop job done. So if you enjoyed it, let us know below and we'll film some more. Otherwise, thanks for watching and we'll see you in the next video. See you guys.